at 7:30 here on August 7th. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day to you. And we have an interesting interview coming up this morning with a doctor about fentanyl overdoses and deaths. And this has certainly been something that's been in the news now for several years. And so we'll take a closer look at what fentanyl is, where it's popping up, and why these overdoses and overdose deaths are happening and why it's spiking. So we'll look at that in a little bit. But first, we want to get a check of that weather, traffic, and a couple of stories. And we'll head over to the Pinpoint Weather Center with Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos. And Candace, you have a nice forecast lined up for us considering what we've been through the past several days.
Yeah, and it's all technically impacting our forecast still with Tropical Storm Debbie. It's only been about 250 miles away from us for the past few hours. So it still has an influence. I wouldn't say direct for most of Central Florida, but certainly still an influence across Central Florida. It's still kind of a breezy day, not as windy as yesterday. So we're going to dial back those the wind speeds a bit. And we're also going to be dialing down those rain chances this afternoon as we are going to continue to see some dry air funneling in kind of on the backside of Tropical Storm Debbie. So let's take it to the map, show you what's going on this Wednesday. Oh, Bridget, I thought today was Friday.
Oh,
I really thought today was Friday. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's just been a long week because we were here all weekend long. But the heat
I'm going to get you some gummy candy. That'll make it all better.
And that's normal gummies for anyone who's wondering. That's
regular gummies. Trader Joe gummies.
I'm a sucker for like some Sour Patch Kids. Let's say name
Candace,
brands.
good save, because you know I'm bad about that. Things come out sound a different way. That's not what I meant.
Could you imagine? Someone just has to clip that part, right? Let's talk about those triple-digit heats across Central Florida. No wonder Candace is so peppy all the time. Drier day in the forecast for this afternoon at about a 30%. We are going to see some more storms kind of filtering back in by Thursday, really back to a normal summertime pattern by the time we head into your weekend. We are watching Debbie and a tropical wave right now in the tropics. No big concerns for us here in Central Florida, the other tropical wave. Satellite and radar composites showing that spin still kind of just lingering just off the coast of South Carolina. It looks like it's going to take a kind of a beeline back into South Carolina. Not today, though. Thursday. That's when we're expecting landfall for Tropical Storm Debbie, and then we'll finally start to see the end of that. Sustained winds still at 45 miles per hour. But again, here's that indirect impact from Debbie. You can see that drier air really funneling in nicely across parts of Florida. Now, Central Florida, we're going to be kind of in the middle of the two. Our southern zones could be seeing a little more rain. Our northern zones are still close enough to some of that tropical moisture. So again, although I'm saying drier, I'm not saying bone dry. There's the big difference with that. Clouds and rain forecast does pick up some of those scattered storms. Now, this modeling, the coloring is a little off. So I do want to just show you that all that's not going to be those deep reds. This is more just showing the coverage of rain, really. That's going to be around the lunchtime hour. Some of those scattered showers kind of pinning itself along the coastline. And then there will be the possibility of seeing some leftover scattered storms, or at least scattered showers throughout the overnight across our northern counties. So with that being said, rain chances for today, not extremely high, down to about a 30%. Highs, though, in the meantime, are going to be heating up much farther than what we've been feeling for the past couple of days. We've had that breeze, we've had the rain, the clouds that kept temperatures a bit on the cooler side. But today the feels like temperatures will once again be up to about 103 to 107 potentially. We are watching a tropical wave out in the Caribbean. It looks like it will continue its track towards the Yucatan Peninsula. No big concern for us here in Central Florida, but we are going to continue to get back to a more summer setup come Saturday and Sunday and into the first day of school on Monday. As everybody gets back into the routine, it looks like our forecast will be very routine again. Highs in the mid 90s, feeling hot with those storms each and every afternoon. Also adding into the mix potentially early next week will be some of that Saharan dust. It's been taking over a big portion of the tropical Atlantic for the last week or so. So we could get a little dense chunk of that coming into Central Florida come Monday and Tuesday. So could be dealing with some of that impacting our air quality a bit, but also our sunrises and sunsets.
Now, does that impact the allergy forecast directly, or we just talk about it? Like that scale?
It could be. It all depends on kind of what you're more, what your allergies are more agitated to, right? Yeah. So Sometimes it might not be technically allergies, just
Hmm.
air quality pollution. So folks who are a little more sensitive to kind of air pollution, ozone pollution, things like that, tend to have more issues with Saharan dust, where others who are just dealing with that pollen and
Okay.
ragweed uh, allergies are a little different in that
I wanted
in
to
that
ask
aspect.
you too before we go really quickly
Yeah,
about Debbie in terms of where it is for our friends and family up just a little further farther north, because
yeah.
you talked about it going out and coming back in, and
Mhm.
more rain for the Carolinas. So what's the forecast with that so far?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, some of our flood warnings and advisories are also being discontinued. So there is some good news. Unfortunately, though, when you have a tropical system that just sits on top for days at a time, rough surf, there still will be those squall lines that will continue to kind of stream in. You saw with the satellite and radar, it kind of doesn't look as
Organized.
bulky
Okay.
with the rain and as
Hmm.
organized with all that rain,
So
but
we're not
still
using that
enough.
term going out, strengthening, and coming back in as a hurricane like some of these other
No,
stories we've had over the decades. So okay.
no, it's still too close to land. It's the center technically is over the open waters, but we are
Hmm.
still talking about it still being a little too close. So they're still it's still dealing with a lot of land interaction. But that just goes to show you that the waters are warm enough that
Hmm.
even a system just offshore, sitting offshore, could
Hmm.
still maintain tropical characteristics and contain and can keep that organization
Right.
in place. But it looks like for like South Carolina, North Carolina, we should start to kind of transition out of tropical
Right.
concerns, primarily on Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Yeah, because I know we had one story like a foot of rain had already fallen in parts of the low country, and it's
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yeah, it has done already a lot of damage. Flooding wise, is certainly
hmm,
is not the big wind maker. This is certainly a rainmaker, as well as the spin ups that we get within some of those rain bands for those that tornado threat. So it's still
hmm,
there. It's not like a Category 4 hurricane sitting off
hmm,
shore. This is a little different, but still enough to really pack a
yeah,
punch. When you talk about a foot of rain falling in one day, it's just really hard for the ground and tributaries to actually move that water out. So
yeah,
unfortunately, it moves water up instead.
yeah. All right. Well, all interesting. Thank you, Candace, for
You're
all the
welcome. How's your
updates.
family with that? Are they still
They
dealing with a lot?
they are okay as far as I know. I know we had one power outage, but it didn't last very long. Most of them are in
Hmm.
the upstate, so it's
Right.
but still, lots of rain in a short amount of time is never good. So I hope it doesn't do too much more damage than it already has. But
Yeah,
we'll
there's just
keep
a lot
watching
of
it.
places. Yeah, there's a lot of places that are very low lying. So that's where the
Mm-hmm.
concern really lies at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll let you go. I know you have a cut in.
I do. It's okay. I
Okay.
like chatting with you anyway.
Okay. We'll see you over on the TV.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Candace. Bye. So we want to check in with Trooper Steve, and he is, going to go out on patrol, back in business. How are you feeling?
Shoulder is still a little locked up, not as bad as yesterday.
Uh,
I was in really rough shape. I tell you, I could
but we
not
think we
move.
figured out what happened, right?
I do think it was a lot of a mix between a previous shoulder injury, coming out not taking care of it, and then all day on Monday being
In
in
the
the truck
rain,
in the rain in
hunched over
position
like
this
this.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't get to do that every day. That was a daily muscle memory when I was a trooper because that's how I live my life. Even when I ride
Because it's a mobile
motorcycles now.
office.
Yeah, it's crazy, Bridget, because even when I ride motorcycles, photojournalist Goose Goslin and I go riding a lot, and I'll have to take a break after about an hour or so because my rear lower back muscles aren't as strong as they used to be. So I get
Mm-hmm.
sore real quick. Got to work on that stuff. I'm letting
Mm-hmm.
this job soften me
Toughen.
up
You
a
got to
little bit.
toughen back up, Trooper.
Yeah, just
All
a little
right.
bit, just a little bit. So
And the truck is back in
today,
service too, so that's good.
yes, ma'am, everything's working. I got my new display screen set up. Everything looking good here. So we'll be good to go. Traffic wise, right now, not too bad. We're starting to see some issues, though, slow down out there. DOT cam showing westbound and east, but the slow lanes on the left side there, right in the Princeton area, Fairbanks curve, 86-mile marker. You can see traffic moving. It's not bumper to bumper, but it's not at the speed limit. So you got to make sure you're paying attention out there. Looking at the map, it looks good. No major crashes to talk about. Your drive times gaining on us. 32 minutes now, Champions Gate to the 408 area. And this crash just came out a little while ago off of Apopka Boulevard at 441. This is close to Maitland Boulevard, a little closer towards Maitland Boulevard, just north there. So be careful. We're starting to see some eastbound delays along Maitland. This crash not affecting that traffic. And then Claremont, I've been out there so much in the Lake County area. That eastbound delay, I know exactly what happens. 2 right lanes back up before you get to the turnpike, and then people like to cut in. So just make sure you're paying attention. Pick your spot, take your time, and cruise on with everybody else. 429, always a ghost town out on the south end. I love 429. Even if I adds 5 extra minutes, as long as I'm cruising, I use 429. St. Cloud looking pretty good this morning through 13th Street, aka 192. And then Lake Nona, not too bad through your area, and wrapping up out in Brevard. If you're headed east along 528 out towards the coast this morning, pretty good. Bridgett, today, nice and smooth, 10 a.m. We have a lot of meetings. I'll see you a lot this morning. And then at 10 a.m., I will be talking about different driver safety classes that are available, whether mandatory or optional, and free and different paid for ones. So a lot of schools don't offer it anymore in grade school, but there are options out there and a lot of free cool stuff that the community can get involved with. So join me, 10 a.m., clickorlando.com.
Good information. We'll see you then. Thanks to receive.
Yes, ma'am. See you.
All right. We have a couple of really nice community stories we want to tell you about. Then we're going to talk to a doctor live about a spike in fentanyl overdoses in a moment. But first, Little League World Series is coming up, and Florida's excited. Lake Mary is excited because their Lake Mary All-Stars are headed there, and they want to do winner takes all. News 6's Mark Lehman has more on their happy homecoming today.
With a dominating win over Tennessee, the Lake Mary All-Stars have punched their ticket to the Little League World Series.
Lake Mary Little League is headed to Williamsport.
Cheering them every step of the way were fans and family watching from friendly confines in Lake Mary. They spoke with News 6's Troy Campbell last night.
This team has just been amazing through this whole thing, and they were prepared, and they showed it, in their performances.
The team rebounding after falling just 1 win short of Williamsport last year. Head coach Jonathan Anderson says the All-Stars used that as fuel to drive them to victory this time around.
It feels great to know that the community is behind us. I think I got a text by one of the city commissioners, said the mayor, the mayor's excited, the city manager's excited.
Lake Mary now becomes only the 4th team from Central Florida to make the Little League World Series in its 77-year history. An opportunity Anderson says they won't let go to waste.
This is the biggest thing there is. The whole, essentially, world is watching, and they all tune in once a year to watch these 12-year-olds shine.
All right, let's go Lake Mary All-Stars. So we'll be following them and wishing them well. You can support them as well to get ready for their trip. We have the information on clickorlando.com right on the homepage. There's a wonderful back-to-school giveaway we want to tell you about, put on by the Tiana Major Foundation. She's a little girl who lost her life tragically in a shooting spree that happened last year. But News 6's Ezzy Castro has more about this wonderful foundation in her honor, and now this back-to-school giveaway that her family is putting together to help other children.
She was a perfectionist in anything she did. Very jokey. We joked almost every morning coming to school, so she's very jokey.
The aunt and uncle of Tiana Major sharing their favorite memories of the little girl who loved school and gymnastics.
At this time, she was in the 3rd grade, so she was already on the 5th grade reading level. So when I tell you, she was like a master. Like she would do it. Like her studies came first, and then gymnastics was the love of her life.
With the first day of school just days away, Angel Grantley and Dominic Major wanted to get results for students in the Pine Hills community this year. They will be donating book bags and school supplies as part of the Yaya's Dream Foundation, a nonprofit which was created by Tiana's family.
What a foundation really is about, continuing her legacy and making sure that the community doesn't forget.
She was only 9 years old when she was killed last year during a shooting spree in Pine Hills. she would have been going to the 5th grade this year.
To see somebody with this backpack on, and it says, I am Yaya Strong. So meaning I am her. Yeah. I could be her.
That's really beautiful. They were able to do that for the kids in honor of Tiana. So that is amazing. You can share that story on clickorlando.com and spread the word. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to talk to Dr. Jenna Wheeler about fentanyl and fentanyl overdoses. Welcome back. It's 7:47 here on Breakfast with Bridgett on News 6 Plus and clickorlando.com. I have Dr. Jenna Wheeler with me this morning from Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children. And Dr. Wheeler, it's so good to see you again. I know we've talked about so many topics over the years, but today we want to talk about an uptick in fentanyl overdoses. So what are you seeing?
Thanks so much for having me. I know when we talk, this is such an important topic that I think a lot of people aren't really aware of. We're starting to see a trend of an increased amount of ingestion of fentanyl younger and younger. Fentanyl has recently become one of the third leading causes of death for kids aged 10 to 19. And I think it's just really important to bring in awareness.
And so what's happening in most of these cases? I know it's a variety, but can you sort of give us what the majority are? What was the scenario that's happening here?
I think one of the scariest things of this is that while some of the kids may know what they're doing and what they're taking, there's a lot of these kids and teenagers and even grown-ups who are thinking that they may be, ingesting a different substance, not realizing that a lot of illegal manufacturers are lacing things with fentanyl. Because fentanyl is so potent, it's a lot cheaper for someone to make a substance with fentanyl and still try to get you that high. But the amount is so potent that people are dying even with one use.
And when we first started talking about fentanyl more and more, I didn't even realize at first that fentanyl is a drug often used and prescribed when you're dealing with chronic pain. It's a synthetic opioid. Can you talk more about how it's used legally?
Sure, and that's a really good point because we don't want to scare people away from the proper use of it, because as you pointed out, it has a good place. Fentanyl is in the same family as morphine, as in your other opioids. People hear about Percocet, they hear about other things that they get for pain management. Fentanyl, though, is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. So when it's prescribed to you by a physician, when it's given at a dose that's based upon your age, your weight, your body type, it can be a very effective medication. But when it's being mixed illicitly into substances with no regard, that's where we're starting to see real problems.
And what is it about people using it to lace? It's that they don't know what they're doing, because it's just such a tiny amount that can kill a person. So it's hard to sort of visualize that, but can you explain how just those tiny amounts can kill so many people?
Sure. As I mentioned, it's so much stronger than our other opioids. It works in a similar way, to get scientific here, it binds to the opioid receptor. That's how it treats your pain. But fentanyl being so strong, some people say, just to put it in a perspective, as little as, 5 tiny rice grains of fentanyl can be a lethal dose in just a one-time dose. And so when people are mixing that into a compound, they're creating a pill, teenagers, people are getting it online on social media, thinking they may be buying something, to get a high differently. This tiny bit of fentanyl that gets mixed in and compounded, they take it one time and, next thing you know, unfortunately, it's fatal.
And so what's happening with all the different types of things that it's being found in? Because you talked about people ordering these like illegal prescription grade drugs that could have anything in them, but it's also found in smoking products. Like, where is it found in illicit drug use?
I think that's the problem is it's showing up everywhere. We've had kids come in who swear that, the only thing they thought they were doing was some marijuana and they're testing positive for fentanyl and they're coming in with side effects that show an ingestion and an overdose much more significant than what you would just see with marijuana. Or kids who are abusing ADHD medication. Just to point out, not the ADHD medication that you're getting from pharmacies, but ADHD medication that people are getting online, they're getting illegally. And when they're coming in with overdoses, these pills are being tested, they're being found to have lethal doses of fentanyl in them. And again, that's the scary part, is that there isn't the awareness out there necessarily.
Yeah.
We've heard in past years about different states having problems, but I think the thing to know now is it's really popping up everywhere.
Yeah. And so prevention is key. So what types of language do we want to use around the kids in terms of making sure their awareness is there? And probably the earlier the better, that they understand the dangers and things to look out for and avoid.
Definitely. And it's always hard. The bottom line, end of the day, that we should be telling our kids is don't ever use drugs. Don't ever take substances from other people. Don't ever use drugs. And I think it's hard because we do know, though, we're not naive to think that kids are going to experiment. They're going to try things. And so I think going beyond that point of, yes, you shouldn't be doing drugs. You shouldn't be trying to get high. But be careful. If someone's giving you something, where is it coming from? Ask the questions. Say no to things that you don't know, where they got them, or, oh, I got them from a friend, or I got them online. They very, in their mind, innocently could be sharing something with you, not realizing that what they're giving you could be lethal, or what they're about to take themselves, and reminding your friend of like, hey, that's not a good idea. And just spreading that awareness. And, we don't want kids to be terrified of things. We certainly don't want them to be scared of, doctor prescribed medications, because we're not seeing any problems with medications, that are coming appropriately prescribed through a pharmacy. But when kids are getting things on the side from friends online, they really need to know that there should be some fear there with what we're seeing.
Okay. Well, Dr. Wheeler, this is great information. And, as we get ready for back to school and everything, it's a good reminder, one of those topics to touch on with the kids. Definitely want to protect them as well. Is there anything else that we want to mention in terms of getting more information before we go?
I think the last point is just never assume your child's too young. Age-based conversations, but we're seeing the rise in overdoses ages 10 to 19. Most of us would think a 10-year-old would never come across drugs, let alone do them. And so I think it's, even in those younger elementary, just starting the conversations, again, age appropriate, not to scare the kids, but just to start letting them know what's out there, to be aware, so that if something does come across their path, they're going to come back and talk to you, not just go ahead and, do what their friends are doing.
Knowledge is power. Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Hope to see you again soon. Bye. We have a package this morning about your money and fears about the economy after that lackluster jobs report. Of course, a hard day on Wall Street the other day. News 6 investigative reporter Donovan Myrie broke down that story with a certified financial planner.
In the last couple of days, there's been market volatility.
Yeah.
Something to be concerned about, something to note, or something to not worry about?
I would say not be concerned about it, not worry about it. We are sort of due for a correction, and it looks like now it's happening, so it's nothing to be concerned about.
Is this a political thing, or is it just, as you said, a course correction?
Well, it's trying to be sold as a course correction. There's still been comments that people are spending too much money. I think people are spending too much money not because they have extra money to spend, it's because everything's more expensive. And I think the tide is starting to turn with the Fed in that direction, that yes, people are spending more money because they have no choice.
Do you think we're going to slip into a recession?
I'm not feeling recession. I'm feeling maybe close to, but stopping a little before we officially get into that. But who am I but a little CFP.
Reading the tea leaves at this point, right? But we want to tell you about some pigeons, the good feathers. Some inflatable pigeons going to show up in downtown Orlando. You won't be able to miss them. It's part of the Creative City Art Project, and they will be on rooftops across 6 areas in downtown, neon colored, 16 feet tall. Pigeons apparently symbolize communication and companionship, so start looking for those to blow up over the next week. That'll be fun to check out with the kids. We have some freebies to tell you about if you're a News 6 insider, and if you're not, it is free to sign up to be one, so don't miss out. Go to clickorlando.com/insider. Right now, we're doing a giveaway to the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona International Speedway. Enter to win 2 tickets to a driver meet and greet experience, and we have 8 other prizes, including tickets to Wawa 250 and the 400. You do have to be an insider to enter these contests, but again, that's free to do. Register for that, enter the contest, clickorlando.com/insider before the time runs out. So I'm going to go over now to Trooper Steve on patrol, and I'll see you for News 6 at noon today and back here for breakfast tomorrow on Thursday. Have a good one.